Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
You'll get it go. Hold on. Once again, we got to set. Oh, I muted myself. Jesus, let's not do that again.
Just remember to hit record.
Yeah, I think I did that. Yes, it's recording. That's a big. This requires a lot of effort. All right.
Clicking buttons.
Yes, but. Thank you, Lisa Chaotic Quixotic. I thank her.
She bought you how many ciders?
She bought us 3 hard ciders. Us.
Okay.
The show. Well, the show and then the Catskills. So.
And what impresses me is she just bought a new car and she still had money left over for hard ciders. Oops.
Oh, I don't think that worked.
Really?
No,
well,
I don't think you had your settings on low.
No, I did.
You sure?
Yes.
Take a look. I mean,
I'm looking at it right now. I can't redo. This is all I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to drink this. I'm not wasting it. It's not a $5 beer like last week.
That's right. But
Yeah.
I did like your little preview that you sent on Instagram that you showed
from
me.
the cave. You knew the place.
That's special.
Yeah. So.
That is a special spot. So welcome everybody to episode 215 of Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. Tonight, Mike Volpe joins us to talk about ham radios on the summits of the Catskills and hiking in the Catskills, which is an awesome, interesting conversation that we have with him later on. Just really cool once again to get up on the summit and to reach somebody possibly in another country pretty far away and stuff, and to realize
or another world.
Another outer space at that. But, to also, we talk about communications with this as a emergency time is really neat. So, I mean, speaking of emergencies, this rescue on Windham Mountain of all places to be rescued at.
Yeah, well, if you read the description, was it really Windham Mountain?
Yeah. So, March 20th. 5:40 p.m. Ranger Fox, awesome. I've worked with her before. She's a cool person. Responded, you've checked in with her as well. Super cool, super young, super fun. Responded to a call of 4 lost hikers on Blackhead Mountain. And this says town of Windham. One member of the group reporting feeling woozy. All 4 hikers from New Jersey were cold and wet and required a rescue. At 6:45, members of the Hennessyl Hose Company located the group and their dog and assisted them down on the escarpment trail. At 8 p.m., Rangers Comfort and Fox met the group and provided dry clothing, headlamps, food, and water. They reached Big Hollow at the trailhead at 10:30 p.m. and declined further care from Windham Ambulance. So once again, that's almost 5 hours of rescue time that you have, maybe that you can, that you will get rescued. So it's pretty significant. And as of this time, they called at 5:40, which they still had 2 hours of daylight, which is all right. I mean, 2 hours to get down from Blackhead Mountain is considerable if you're coming down from the western side, going into the Lockwood Gap. But if you're going down from the other way, especially if you're like on the east side, you're a little crazy because that is the iciest section in the Catskills, as we know of. So, but they were wet and woozy. So were they wasted? To get wasted at the summit?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they were wasted or just disorientated, and they might not have had a compass and the ability to use it, and their reliance on arguably, navigational applications wasn't doing them well. And so if they were coming off of Blackhead, maybe they, headed to the right and went over the Camp Steel Rock and started going down that way
True.
when they needed to go the other direction. And that's not an uncommon mistake to make, because the trail going back down to Big Hollow is kind of obscured when you're up there at the rock and the signs. And I can see how people would naturally gravitate to the right. And you may or may not recall, I think it was in 2010, those two fellows were stranded up there in a snowstorm. One of them died because they did exactly that. They needed to go back down the escarpment trail instead. Well, no, they needed to go back down towards Big Hollow, and instead they turned to go down the escarpment towards North-South Lake, and it was a fatal decision for one of the two. Yeah, so that's, that maybe that could be better marked. It's nice to see that the local fire department and the Rangers got out there and helped these folks. And I don't remember what the particular conditions were on Friday the 20th, but thankfully it wasn't a storm for these people.
Yeah. And, once again, glad they communicated at 5 o'clock instead of like 7 o'clock when sundown was happening. Would have taken a lot longer, but they would have been colder and stuff like that. So, once again, and it looks like, that picture that they posted, I see the dog and a little faint stuff going on with the area, and it once again brings a question mark to where they are. But I mean, it's in the dark, so it's just. But shit happens. Be prepared once again with headlamps, stuff like that, extra gear. It doesn't hurt to carry extra gear. It'll only make you stronger, really, to be honest. It'll only make you stronger to carry that extra gear and to help yourself out and to help other people out as well. It baffles my mind that they want to go as lightweight as possible. And, once again, the resources we have on the internet nowadays with how much, we've come, how far we've come, I used to hike in khakis and jeans and stuff. And, I did have spikes. That's the thing. I did have snowshoes and spikes, but I used to hike in jeans and cotton. I survived, but I learned over time because of my research on the internet. And I don't know how you learned over time, Ted, with your, I mean, you skied, so, I mean, but you skied in jeans as well, right?
Yeah. Well, I was a hiker. I was a hiker and a camper before I picked up skiing, but I generally can say going back to a very young age, I was spending my time outdoors and, seen a lot over the years, but, it's hard to say. These guys could have all been very experienced hikers, and maybe they spent a lot of time in other places like the Adirondacks, New Hampshire, whatnot, and just something went wrong for them on Friday.
True.
We don't know. I mean, that's one of the problems when you get these, pretty bare bones reports on the incident, and this is why they ought to come on the show and let us know what went down, and if there's any tips that they could give us on how to prevent this or minimize it happening to us or one of our listeners.
True. And, the one thing that I would like to bring up is, the reports that the DEC is kind of just like low key, stuff like that, the bare minimal. But then we have reports with Vermont Search and Rescue, New Hampshire Search and Rescue, who go all out and do, I mean, it's horrible to put the names in there and stuff, but you know what? They go all out, say the conditions, how much time it took, what the people were doing, this and that. They go all out to kind of, I don't know if they kind of shame the people, but they also tried to educate like other people, like the that Stowe Mountain Rescue group on Facebook and Instagram. They are just hardcore, and they're positive as heck. You know, like they're like somebody got lost up on this area skiing and stuff. You know, no big deal. We went up with 8 people. We had a rope rescue. It took 12 hours. They were positive influence, but it basically educates you. You know, that shit can happen, but it's going to take a long time for you to get rescued in these certain places. And, you know, you got to be prepared with this, and this. And they are happy to help you stay alive. They don't want to haul somebody dead off the trail. And, you know, it's cool to see, but, you know, I wish kind of New York State would gravitate towards more love stories of the story of why maybe one of them didn't have microspice. They slipped and fell. They maybe had an injury, and, you know, they were slowing the group down. Everybody got cold because they didn't have, you know, once again, you said there's different variances that you could have.
Yeah.
And
well, that's why we ought to get a couple of the Rangers back on the show, and they can give us some inside intel on these situations that occurred in the Catskills. And one of the things I want to point out, and I think empirically it's well founded, but if you could tell me, Stosh, when since you have started this podcast has one of your listeners had to call in for a rescue?
was she a listener? Katie? I think she was a listener at the time. Joanne and them and Danny.
So but that was a situation that could happen to anyone. That was just luck of the draw.
True.
Bad luck of the draw, that we all twist our ankles and slip and slide on this and that. I mean, Lord knows Danny Davis and I do plenty of that hiking up these stream beds. But when is it? I guess my question should have been framed better. When has one of your listeners done something dumb in the woods that required a rescue?
I would say never.
Or a body bag.
Never that they admitted.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, you know, I mean, this is kind of a little bad take on something humorous. But yeah, you know, the part you just, you know, read, hike with others, get as much knowledge as you can. Use your common sense. It's like the 11th essential. And, you know, just keep your wits about you. And, you know, some people hike with an inReach, which is very useful. Other people don't. And the most important thing to do, whether you're using an inReach or not using an inReach, is let a responsible person who is not hiking that day and is available to check up on you know where you're going, what your route is as best you can define it, whether you're on trail or off trail, and when it is you expect to check in with them and when they should make the 911 call. I think that's essential to do. It doesn't weigh down your backpack at all. And if you don't have a friend like that, just reach out to Stosh or I, and we will be that, you know, hiking buddy for you. Is that, what do they call it in swimming when you have like a buddy, the buddy system in swimming? You remember that?
No.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I can say, Ted, that I have been there for somebody, a couple, 2 or 3 people that have had those situations. So,
yeah, I've had other people like give me their intel and then check back in on me previously. So we don't mind doing that.
Yeah,
but just understand on Saturdays I'm generally unavailable because I'm out there on my own.
Your middle blue line and not with any cell service whatsoever. Need to get a ham radio.
Yeah, but we're right. But we're not going to be hypocritical. We're here for you when you need us, and you better be there when we need your vote in the chronogrammies. Okay, I'm just saying that.
I mean, it's already passed by now.
But nominations. Yeah, this is just stage one. This is like the
stage one,
the primaries, and then we go to the real runoff. Okay, where it's gloves off, hiking boots on, full crampon conditions.
Correct. So as we move on, we're talking about warmer weather right now. You know, I'm getting thunderstorms up here in Oneonta. So why don't we go a little bit more on Lyme's disease? You had these top 3 preventative measures.
Yeah, so I don't know how this popped into my inbox. Maybe it was our new research assistants, Artie Brain and Rip Van Intelligence, who have joined the Inside the Line team. But they have these 3 pointers for us when it comes to Lyme's disease. Number one is, and we talked about this last episode, the permethrin shield. Treat your gear and clothes now with permethrin. Follow the directions closely. Moderately mischievous Danny points out that you should not use permethrin around your domestic cats because it'll kill them. So that's a good call out on his part. Number 2, Grand Tongo is a Picardian, I'm not saying that right, Picardian 20% spray, gives you 12 hours of protection. It has a vanishing odor. It's dry on your skin, and it typically retails for around $14.99 for a 4.5 ounce can. Grand Tongo is what they recommend. Third recommendation is the 2-hour rule. Post-activity, take a shower and put your hiking clothes in the dryer on high heat for at least 10 minutes before washing them, because it's the dry heat that kills ticks and other bugs instantly. So permethrin, Grand Tongo, and wash yourself and dry your clothes. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Permethrin, I agree 100%. I know people bathe their stuff, wash it, and before their hikes. I will spray my legs right when I get out of the car, when I get my what's it called on pants. I'm sorry.
So you drive without pants? I think
it's shorts.
There's a Seinfeld episode like that.
When I get my boots on and stuff, I will throw that on over stuff, because I'm just, I'm paranoid. I don't want to get Lyme's disease. No way. So, yeah, good tips. I'll have permethrin, and I will have the Grand Tongo and stuff like that in the show notes so you can check it out. So, last little topic of shooting the shit. I wanted to bring this up because I thought this was very interesting, as over the years, I've definitely talked about Everest. Mount Everest has been a kind of shithole for the past, I would say, 5 to 10 years due to good old COVID, bringing in all the rich people wanting to summit this mountain, and, not the experience. They just trash the place. They leave. They're done. Nobody helps out. So this Everest season is starting up. We're starting to basically get it to kick off, but it's definitely coming along with structure this year. They're trying to bring more structure, and according to this article from Explorer's Web, climbers haven't fully arrived yet, but the base camp is already prepped. They've already had everything down, and now there's new rules coming into play. And a lot of this, it's aimed at people complaining about this for years, of overcrowding safety issues and people gaming the system. Now, one of the big focuses is tighter control, especially with permits and safety requirements for workers and how rescues are handled. So, used to be, this is what I thought in the past couple of years with the regulations and such, with Everest, has been just, if you have the money, you can show up no matter what. You have to beat like a little fitness test, to show that you've done a certain amount of summits or someone. But no, it's been mostly money. And they're moving away from that. They're cracking down on the heli taxis as well, which is apparently wild, because climbers have been calling in helicopter rescues, not because they're in danger, but because they want to skip the dangerous or exhausting parts of the descent. And they just want to get out of there and say that, oh, I summited Everest, but I'm going to skip the danger zone, or what is it called? Is it death zone? Death zone. They want to skip the death zone and stuff. Helicopters can't really do that up there. They can fly to where they can get in, but once again, you got winds whipping at 80 miles per hour up above the death zone, which is 24,000 feet. And now they're going to regulate a lot more. Basically, they're going to, if you're up there, you're fucking dead. So that's Darwin. Is that Darwinism? Like, you know what? They're also cracking down on environmental side, which is waste management, which is, as we've shown, I've shown with reels, with, posts and stuff, huge issue. on the base camp on the different zones and stuff like that. We have the base camp, zone 1, zone 2, death zone, stuff like that. They just take their oxygen stuff, they throw it out the door. And now these, the Nepal, the people, are just have to haul them down and stuff like that. So now there is a bigger push to where climbers might have to prove that they've already climbed a 7,000 meter peak in Nepal before ever attempting Mount Everest. So basically, no more jumping straight in. You have to do a couple big expeditions before you can honestly jump into Everest. Definitely raises a bunch of questions. Is this about safety or about preserving the mountain? Or is it also about controlling the industry and keeping more of that money in Nepal? So that's definitely some big questions that I have, as well as, Tad has. I am more on the lenient side of seeing what has happened at the base camp of just, a tent breaks, they just leave it there. They don't haul it out. Of course they can't haul it out. It's like a 26-mile hike. Is it 26? It's actually got to be more than that.
From the base camp?
To the base camp to like the area, like that.
Yeah. So the hike to and from the base camp, I forget the name of the town that they hike in from offhand, but actually it's an event in and of itself that's worth doing. I've spoken to some people that have done it. They've told me that you can do, once you get there,
80 miles. Forgive me. Jesus Christ.
An 80. Yeah. I've hiked with people that have done the hike in from wherever it is you fly into, and they say it's well worth the money. You pay, $2,000 to $3,000 depending on what level of service you want, and the level of accommodations, and you do basically a day hike from point to point, and you have people carrying your gear. So there's a means and methods to get things back from base camp where they can be properly disposed. But I think the fundamental issue is just you have this short, compressed window of opportunity to get to the summit, and you have this growing popularity and availability of doing that, where, decades ago, maybe 50 people, if that, would try a year.
Yeah.
But now who knows how much it is. And frankly, I'm sure in the next 5 years, it's going to be down to a lottery system like we have on, mountains domestically in this country. You need a permit to go up it, and advanced permits are issued on a lottery system. So this requires some level of intervention and regulation, I think, for the sake of everyone who appreciates Everest for what it should be and not what it's becoming. And to sound a little pompous, particularly from somebody who's never ever going to hike Mount Everest, if I was to put the time, effort, and money into doing it, I wouldn't want to be stepping over human waste, spent oxygen cans, and presumably dead bodies. So it should have some level of policing. It promotes the safety for everyone, as well as the overall, I think, mountain experience. So it's inevitable, more regulation to efficiently deal with increasing popularity for that.
It's really sad to see the videos and the pictures from base camp, and then further up of just people. Once again, a tent get trashed and they leave it there, and it's got to be hauled out either by a Sherpa or nobody else at all, when these people that are paying the money should be hauling this out, and they're just getting the free ride as well. I know you're paying thousands of dollars for this, but goddamn, like, you walk past a dead body, you kind of feel humble that you lived to survive another day, and that you can be like, God damn, I can make a difference and haul a small tent out. That it might not make the biggest impact that you can have, but it does make a freaking difference. Mm-hmm. Especially when you look at satellite. If you look at satellites, have you ever looked at that of the Everest Base Camp? Just yellow and orange.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the base camp itself.
It's so sad. It sucks. Yeah. I'm very glad, that we have these regulations in the Catskills and stuff. And 98 points of the time, people follow these regulations, and that we have a nice brush of LNT, leave no trace.
Yeah.
But, you pay the money.
Yeah.
You'll be like Wyndham Mountain Club, and you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, well, speaking of Wyndham Mountain Club, why don't we can hook up a deal with Hunter Mountain, get some of their snowmakers, have people hike up from the lodge at the ski area, go through a zone where we have snowmakers pointing in their face, full blast. They'll wear a mask that progressively depletes the oxygen in the air that they're breathing as they get towards the fire tower on the top of Hunter Mountain. And then, halfway up the fire tower, we'll put them in the complete death zone with zero oxygen. And we'll see who makes it. And then they'll get a nice cheesy patch if they survive. And if they don't, they'll just be another dead body.
on freaking Mountain.
Yeah. Boy, I really went off the rails on that one. We'll see if Stosh leaves it in or if this gets just completely edited out. It's this Catskill hazy IPA, man. I'm telling you. I think they make it with mushrooms.
I mean, I'd say so. You're going to go on Mount Trumper and get naked and say somebody's trying to kill you.
All right. I keep my clothes on when I do this podcast, but I don't stand up during the recording.
True. That's I find that pretty funny. Let's have people ice axes and stuff every and then they're like, oh, I can't do this.
It's almost like a virtual experience, right?
The Colonial's chair to the junction is going to be like 8,000 feet of elevation gain in simulation.
Yeah, we'll make it feel real for them.
Hell
and then when they're done, they can hike down to the lodge at Hunter and they can have some sushi and an IPA.
Right? That those are Sherpas make them. Jesus.
Yeah. And then drive their Tesla home. Ba-doom.
You had to go there.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you definitely did. I don't care.
Yeah.
I love it.
And by the way, while we're talking about all this in anticipation of the conversation to come, I just want to let you know that I'm looking at buying a microphone that's 1,400 watts.
Oh,
so I can broadcast louder than you.
Freaking louder. What was that?
Yeah. I'll need like a permit. My house will be radioactive, but I'll get my point across. All right, moving along. Let's talk about
the amazing monthly supporters of the show.
Yeah.
The awesome monthly supporters show. And, after we get a set of sponsors and the monthly supporters, I want to share something. So thank you to the amazing monthly support of the show: Bob McLean, Chris Girabian, Eric Rosario, Jeff Schatz, Vicky Ferrer, Mikey S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy A., Denise W., Vanessa, and Jim C. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Greatly appreciate it. Also, you need to check out Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly from Outdoor Chronicles Photography specializes in adventure elopement and adventure couple photography in the Catskills, Adirondacks, and the White Mountains. She's an officiant for getting married, a licensed guide, but most important, she's a story maker. Molly won't just give you photos, she'll give you memories that will last forever. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, have you ever wanted to learn more about hiking or backpacking, or even brush up on some of your old skills in the backcountry? You need to check out Trailbound Project, a hiking and backpacking school. Scott and Joe from the New Jersey Search and Rescue Team have amazing backgrounds in wilderness first aid, wilderness first responder, and the Mountain Rescue Association, and they are to help you learn old and new skills of hiking and backpacking. They teach first aid, map and compass, and many other skills that could help you and others while out on the trail. Check them out on their website and all social media platforms. So, Ted, I want to say about that with the sponsors and with the monthly supporters that we made a $300 donation to Heart of the Catskills Humane Society down in Arkville, or Delhi, I believe, for the Pints for Paws event down in Arkville. So if you want to go to the Union Grove Distillery on, I believe, once again, sorry, it is May. Sorry, I'm bringing this up. May 2nd. If you want to go to the Union Grove Distillery, they're ahead of a Pints for Paws event that is going on for the Catskill Humane Society, Heart of the Catskill Society. So check them out. I will have that in the show notes. So thank you once again to everybody who has donated to the show as we make these donations. So fantastic. It is still thundering outside. So they had a tornado warning for Delaware County, which is right below me, which is pretty freaking crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, March 31st.
So are tornadoes common in the area where you are?
Absolutely not. No way. Up north, a little bit more up north where it's flatter. Nowhere down here. We had recently one in Roscoe, but that was like 2 years ago. And then we haven't had tornadoes here in like 20, 30 years. Crazy. So, are you really outdoors? Mention the podcast of one of your hike through social media, and we will chat about it on the show. Tag us by typing at ITL Catskill MTM Podcast. So T-Bold Outdoors, Todd was up on the highest point in New York State. He did Mount Marcy. I don't know if this was recent or a memory, so looked like a little memory. So glad he could get that out. Mike, Red Hand Adventure Guys, was in the Delaware National Recreation Area. So Mike, once again, is an awesome volunteer at the Balsam Lake Mountain. So check him out at Red Hand Adventure Guys. Catskill Mountain Hiker, hike Bonatu, is that how you say it? Bonacoo Crag and Table Rocks in the Gunks. So Ted, maybe I should have you do the Gunks kind of stuff. You know the pronunciation with them.
Yeah. Well, he's hiked at a very popular place over there. Interestingly, almost directly underneath that, the Catskill Aqueduct flows.
Oh.
They obviously had a bore through the mountain, but they harvested some rock off of the Bonacoo Crag for fill material. And it's a popular scramble. I have fond memories of my daughter, now rock climber, going up Bonacoo Crag, and then also over on that side of the Gunks are the Table Rocks, which is a far less intense, but potentially more interesting place to go hiking. It's very accessible, has a great view. Further up the trail from there, they call it the $1 Million View, which looks out over to the Catskills. So kudos to Catskill Mountain Hiker for getting over to hike the Gunks. Gunks are immensely scenic, beautiful, yet very accessible on the carriage trails. So there's my plug for the Gunks, even though I haven't hiked there in almost a year.
No, I mean, the year is not that bad. So, yeah. I mean, Vicky F, of course, was leading a club hike up Friday in Balsam Cap with Mo. That looked fantastic. Had a good time. Jay Kaplow was on Harriman and also did the Ramapo Torn from Reeves Meadow, PA, and then over to the Diamond Mountain via the Seven Hills Trail for an 8.5 mile loop. Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Seven Hills Trail sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
Scott, aka Catskill Mountains Brew, went up Fur, Big Indian, Balsam, and Eagle, and then went through Slide, Wittenberg, Cornell, and the beautiful spring conditions on the next day. Scott is just ticking away at all this amazing stuff that I can't even think of. I don't know if he's going he said recently that he's just doing it for fun, but I think he's ticking away at his grid.
Yeah.
He's got to. I'm going to ask him this weekend, be like, hey, let's do Big Indian, Balsam, and the Eagle. And he's going to say no. He's going to be
going hiking with him this weekend.
No, I don't know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
I got to figure it out.
It's Easter. I heard the DEC is putting on that Easter egg hunt again. I'm sure you're going to talk about it later.
True.
I think the co-sponsor is, what is that? The Catskill Crew. Co-sponsoring it with the DEC. Yeah, it's going to be on Overlook Mountain. No, this year they're moving it over to Graham Mountain.
Graham Mountain.
Yes.
They're going to put down all the blowdown and stuff. And I like that. Also, Tracy, Pink Pony 18, glad to see you back up and at it. Was at Overlook and then enjoyed some Woodstock stuff afterwards. Just to let you know, she was also wearing some inside the line apparel up at the top of Woodstock. So,
yeah, she said it improved her hiking performance by 50%.
Oh,
yeah, because the garment she was wearing actually has little pockets, and instead of, for insulation, instead of the little pockets just being filled with air, we fill them with helium to make you 50% lighter so you can hike faster. It's a new marketing gimmick that we came up with in our marketing studios to make more money, to buy more hard cider. Okay, moving along.
I'll allow it.
Again, I'm blaming it on the IPA.
I mean, that's good. That's good.
Shame.
Nicholas,
Yeah.
no, not at all. Nicholas Golden Money Cat was sharing some memories of being on Twin and Indian Head. Daniel Passes was back in the mountains on Hawkut. Good to see you back, Daniel. We will see more of your stuff eventually. Once again, we have a lot of people this coming week out and about. So Danny, aka Mildly Mischievous, was up on Sugarloaf checking out the brand new outhouse on Mink Hollow. I gotta admit, it was classy. It looked good. I think that might be my next destination. So we'll see. I mean, Rachel Jean, the Gypsy Queen, was out on with the Long Island hiker getting her green belt. I don't know what that means. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I understand the green belt is a hiking trail that cuts across Long Island, and you hike from the North Shore to the South Shore or vice versa. She broke it up into section hiking and finished it up. So she's completed the entire thing. She hooked up with Long Island hiker who was on a few episodes ago. And I forget if it was on like the story feed or her posts, but she had some great shots. And of course, Rachel Jean is, promoting the podcast left and right. So that's great to see. So thank you, Rachel Jean, the Gypsy Queen.
Yeah. It's glad you can get together with Long Island hiker and, hook up and stuff. It's great to hear once again that all these people are connecting through the podcast.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And if you listen to that episode, you heard the story how he was having a down day on the AT, and around the corner came Rachel Jean and her husband Josh to boost his spirits and share some trail magic with him. That was last summer when he did that. So that's very cool.
Phenomenal. So Vicky, also at Hiker Goddess's Adventure, was out with Barbara on an 8.6 mile hike in 8.6 mile hike in Harriman. Paul 1976 Smith started at Maben Hollow doing fir, spruce, hemlock, and Winnisook Mountains with a 2 mile road walk back to the hollow. Mm-hmm. I gotta admit, that's a pretty awesome hike.
Yeah. I've done that hike, I think, twice. I'm not going to say I did it from Maben Hollow. I have to look up Maben Hollow and see where that is. Always looking for new and interesting entry points. Yeah, I know where that is.
I was going to say, come on, you don't know where that is. You know where that is.
Yeah.
So also, Sean Scion 72 was at Calamity Brook with Enzo to check out a bridge that will probably be repaired faster than anything in the Catskills will, because it was up in the Adirondacks. So that'll get repaired in probably like a month. Have a good time. I mean, I gotta admit that Calamity Brook leads to a more extensive area than the Catskills, and then plus it leads over a brook that is catastrophic to search and rescue and stuff like that. So they'll get that done. So thank you, Sean, and thank you for tagging the show. My God, he never does that unless he's mowing the lawn.
Yeah, he must be getting bored up there.
So Lisa Chaotic Kozotic tried Catskill High Peak but had to bail because she forgot her shoes after work. Did Thomas Cole last Thursday and the Burroughs Range last Tuesday. So Lisa is killing it.
I think you kind of got her story backwards. She didn't summit Catskill High Peak because she ran into some ice that she was not equipped for, and she was short on time because she forgot to bring her shoes with her, presumably in her car that she would have to change into to go to work afterwards.
Sorry.
And then I also know that, and she posted this today on Insta, that she just purchased a brand new shiny Subaru Forester, and she's excited to take it up to the White Mountains in the Adirondacks to use for camping and hiking this summer. So kudos for her. Hope everything goes well with the new car and car payments. Ouch. But oh well.
Oh,
Enjoy
wait.
it.
So,
Yeah.
then there's always a consequence and stuff. So, I mean,
Yeah.
thank you for checking me up on that, because I got Lisa's stories out of whack last time. I celebrated something about, she did the grid or single season and stuff like that, and I was wrong. So
Yeah. And then we've been mispronouncing her sister's last name for 2 decades now.
that's true. That's true.
We're straight on that. So
Just skate.
Lisa, just give us a few more weeks. We'll have the wrinkles ironed out, and we won't make these blunders anymore.
Yeah. And last but not least, Joanne, Beyond Blazes, and Danny, mildly mischievous, did some amazing bushwhacking up the escarpment, and then we'll check out the old Otis Railway that ascends from Catskill Roundhouse all the way down to the Socrates, Palinville area. Fascinating place.
Yeah, the tracks are gone, but they posted some photos that show that a trestle bridge is still in place out there, made out of these huge timbers or wooden members.
Yeah, 4x4 stuff. Not even. That's probably
it's probably like 12 by 12 or 18 by 18. It's just mammoth stuff, and it's been out there now for like 100 years. So that was pretty cool to see. And they did have some other interesting things. And the one thing I'll note about the Joanne's recent posts is we all know she's gridding, and it's nice to see that she's not only doing her open boxes on the grid, but she's doing some pretty interesting hikes to get them done. So that's nice to see.
In that area, I will advise any human being not to go the Otis Railway in the summer. It is absolutely atrocious with prickers and poison ivy.
Yeah, I can imagine that. There's no canopy over it.
Exactly. It sucks. Absolute anything that we can say. So thank you, everybody who tagged us in the show.
I counted 15 tags.
Nice. That's just been it.
Yeah. 1 week we had over 20, which was awesome. So
one or more just makes me feel grateful. So 15 is just top of my head. So really appreciate it. So Tad, we cracked open stuff before. What'd you crack open?
So I am having a Catskill Hazy IPA, which is, according to the can, an award-winning Indian Pale Ale brewed in the heart of the Catskills by the Westkill Brewing Company. I had one of these Saturday afternoon with Danny Davis and our post-hike brews and bites at Brios, and it was delicious enough that I walked across the street to the official Inside the Line beer cave at the Phoenicia supermarket and picked up a 4-pack of these beauties. So it's a nice IPA. I'm not going to say it's better than Catskill Brewing's Devil's Path IPA, but when it comes to IPAs, buy what you like.
Exactly. Yeah. So you enjoyed it, and it's doing its trick.
Yeah. I got a moderate buzz going on. Why don't you clue us into what you're having tonight? Is it milk and cookies? I see you dipping some cookies into something.
I mean, it's a Hudson North peach mango.
Oh, okay.
Phenomenal. And the power is tripping on and off. So once again, that's good stuff. Got some storms rolling in. So if you don't hear from me, Tad's going to take over. So
yeah, I'll take over the show.
Previous hikes, Tad, I have not done anything. I had a busy weekend, so I couldn't get anything. I know. Shame.
Ooh. Okay.
Shame. How about you?
Oh,
what were you up to?
So my hike, in all candor and trying to be modest, I could probably go on for about 2 hours about last week's hike. But the way it went down is all week long, I was focusing on, open mountains for the month of March on my Red 2.0, and hiking North Dome and Sherrill kept circling back in my head. So I was planning, what way I wanted to do them, the logistics of doing it point to point as opposed to hiking some loop, yada, yada, yada. And as I was settling in on those plans, Friday night, I got a message from Danny Davis, who propositioned me with hiking, blue lining up a unnamed stream off of the Stony Cove Brook in the Catskills. So obviously I had to take him up on his offer. We hooked up that morning at Bread Alone, just outside of Boyceville. He went over what he was thinking of doing, and the only indecision was over, once we summited, we were going to blue line up this unnamed stream. Once we hit the summit of Plateau, what way were we going to come down? We're going to do another whack down. We're going to go down Warner Brook. We're going to do the Devil's Path to Devil's Tombstone. I suggested we just leave a car at Devil's Tombstone, and then depending on how we felt, we'd have our options open. So that's what we did. Dropped the Jeep at Devil's Tombstone. We headed down to the Notch End Road. Do you know where I am now, Stop?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're over to the south of the, what's it called? The Notch, Devil's
Correct.
Tombstone.
We're on the plateau side of the Notch. Okay. So we
where the old bridge was and stuff like that. They have
the old Notch End.
Yep.
And there's the train used to go through there. And so when you walk the road out towards the trail, you walk through what used to be would have been the overpass for the train, but the bed is no longer there. So after going under that, or under what's no longer there, we banged a hard left into that unnamed stream, and we then traveled 6.3 miles, 2,000 vertical feet in how much time? Take a guess, Dosh. 6.3 miles.
So 2 miles, like 2.8 hours?
7 hours, 15 minutes.
Up?
Yeah, the whole hike. And that's because when you do a hike like this with Danny Davis, who is a professional geologist trained in geomorphology, has studied streams for the past 30 years. Every rock, every combination of rocks, dried, scarred stream beds, plateaus, terraces, all this stuff means something to him.
True.
And so I didn't rush him at all because we were just doing one mountain. And we took our time going up that stream bed, and we saw there was just so much amazing stuff along the way. And we really had a good time, talking about the science of all these things and just about fun stuff in general. But up in this area, one of the things he pointed out that we got to a certain point where initially the stream starts choked off, and then you head into this broader area where there's a lot of terracing, where the stream itself had channeled and cut and smoothed out this area and created a very broad valley, which showed when we went off the water course and hiked up these terraces to check out those upper areas. And it was an area that was obviously logged out recently in geological time, is sometime in the last 50 to 100 years. I later looked up in Mike Kudish's book to see who had been logging up there, and I think it was like the McConnell Company or something like that he put in that area. And along that whole corridor at one time, there was a ton of furniture factories, so there was a heavy need for lumber. But at any rate, we continued up the stream. What was notable is, and this is a thing to look out for whenever you hike anywhere in the Catskills, is the absence of bedrock as you're hiking up through this area. And so when we first stepped into the stream area, there was just a little bit of bedrock at the lower elevation, popping out from the side of one of the glacial deposits. And then we continued upstream, and we did not hit any bedrock again until about 2,900 vertical feet. So we had climbed over about 1,000 vertical feet before we hit bedrock ledge that was probably 80 vertical feet up. Nonetheless, along the way, Danny spotted a rock with fossilized tree roots.
Nice.
About 370 million years old. So I'm going to post a picture of that. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
When you find something like that, he says it's the biggest example of fossilized tree roots that he's ever found in the Catskills. And here's a guy who spends his working life walking streams in the Catskills. So at any rate, we hiked up this bedrock ridge, got up and over it, and then we headed to the west to a talus slope. And you see a lot of talus slopes along the Devil's Path in general. You see a ton of them on plateau. The Devil's Path proper hikes you literally right over one of them for quite a distance, but there's many of them along the other ridges that lead up to plateau. And a couple of people, after I posted that picture of that talus slope, reached out to me, and we went back and forth on other talus slopes. They've been up there, but I will say it was fairly steep. But then after we did that, we returned to the stream bed. We got up to the headwaters section where there's really no true eroded channel. It's just really a broad area where the fine material is all washed out, and we're just left with a lot of rocks along the mountainside with the paper birch and the yellow birch growing up in them. But we continued up this, and then we got to this spot where there was these 5 huge boulders in a row, and they were in this area of the headwaters, which is again layers of larger rocks with no fine material. And you could literally see how over time these large boulders, larger than a van, had been moving downhill. And so one of the boulders, we estimated probably in the last 25 to say 40 years, had moved about 3 feet.
Wow.
And you could see it from how the roots of the paper birch tree that were growing on top of it extended off the back of the boulder. So by estimating the age of the tree and the length that these roots extended off the back of the boulder and went uphill as opposed to going immediately down the side of the boulder and into the rocks, they had, over time, the boulder had moved away from where the roots went into the mountain and started to create like that gap. So we estimated between 25, maybe 40 years, that boulder had moved 2.5 to 3 feet.
Wow.
And you could literally see how it was plowing the rocks like a snowplow plows snow in front of it. Nonetheless, we had a kind of interest once we got to the spruce area along the top of Balsam for Plateau Mountain. We hit the trail. The trail was, your typical monorail you see this time of year. We threw the spikes on. We crunched along, and at this point in time, it was like a mini squall up there. But at any rate, we finished the hike. It was a great hike. We went to Brios afterwards for couple slices and some Catskill IPA. We were waited on by Jamalia, also known as JJ, very friendly and nice waitress. She promised to follow me on Instagram and she didn't. So when you go into Brios and JJ is your waitress, tell her that she needs to follow me on Instagram. So that's it. That's the hike. 6.3 miles, 7 hours.
That's not bad.
Minutes.
I mean, it's a mile per hour when you're going up some pretty steep terrain with Danny Davis. I gotta get with Danny Davis if he doesn't mind, one time just to hear the stories and just to hear the educational background that he has. Once again, I want to get him back on the show just to talk about some stuff in the Catskills more from what the conversation I had with him alone back in, I don't know how long ago. Like that was a while ago.
Yeah. So to put it in perspective, 7 hours, 15 minutes of that, according to my Gaia data, 4 hours was moving time. 3 hours, 15 minutes was stop. And literally, I can show you pictures where, one of the fun things I'll do with Davis is when I get ahead of him going upstream is I'll let him know that there's fresh material, riverbank material exposed upstream. And he gets excited over that because that's like an X-ray into what either the stream has brought down from uphill or what the glacier has left behind. And so he wants to know whether it's disturbed, undisturbed, consolidated, unconsolidated, sorted, how it got there, what its origin in, because that tells him a lot about what's been going on. It's all very interesting stuff to see. It's been very informative. And I maybe have one more hike with him before he goes to Alaska.
Okay.
To the land of retirement.
Good for him. Good for him. I was wondering when he was doing that. So
yeah. So I told him I'm already recruiting Davis 2.0. So if anybody wants to apply to go on strange and unusual hikes in the Catskills, send in your application ASAP.
True. So awesome. Glad you had a good time. Hopefully I'll get out this weekend. I will be getting out Tuesday. So if anybody wants to go Tuesday, let me know. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Probably something career, plain and simple, but you never know. You never know when somebody
Bromley.
That's what no. It'll be nice. So this will be fast moving time. So I'll be doing something crazy. So sorry.
Okay.
Catskill news. So Queen of the Catskills was the winner of Made Up State Award in 2026. Was that New York State or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Both of these are New York-based awards. The documentary, the 15-minute documentary, has won other awards. Kind of an impressive list. I say kind of an impressive list, I should say, of other awards in 2025. And they continue to show the film, and it continues to win awards. So far this year, it won the Made Up State Award, and it also won the Adirondack Film in the Your Shorts Are Showing series. So those 2 awards, and I seem to recall it won something else in France, but I couldn't pull up that data right away. So Queen of the Catskills, Jamie Kennard, and Julie McGuire kind of like becoming, Hollywood famous, if you will, in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah, kudos to them.
Nice. Congratulations, Julie and Jamie. Fantastic. Yeah. And they were on the show several times.
Yeah.
Twice, both. I think Julie was on the show 3 times. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
And I'll just point out, Jamie Kennard, when he was on the show, he told us about, he did this 5K a day where he went outside and did 5K in whatever way he could for, I think it was 500 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've told that to some folks, and some folks have taken up that challenge to go out and do 5K a day. And it's been very life-changing for them. So
brutal.
Listen to that episode that he was on. And because the way he ended his 5K a day was pretty memorable. So listen to that if you haven't heard it already, and consider doing that.
Yeah.
5K a day.
Also, if you want to volunteer, 3500 Club, Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club, Visitors Center, Jolly Rollers Trail Crew, Bramley Mountain Fire Tower, and I heard that Mount Ucianta is looking for some volunteers as well as they become part of the Catskill Fire Tower Challenge. So also, if you need stickers, send me a message. I will send them to you for free, or stop at Camp Catskill and you can get free stickers. So, Tad, let's break it into the probably crazy weather forecast. Is correct. Here is your weekend weather forecast, sponsored by Scion 72 Lawn Mowing Service. If you want a clean lawn and you want someone to do it while listening to our podcast, contact Sean at Scion 72 on Instagram. On Friday, expect muddy conditions throughout the weekend as rain continues to linger in the area. On Friday, April 3rd, expect some clouds in the morning to continue to linger through the afternoon. A high of 55, a low of 50, and a wind chill down to 41 degrees. On Saturday, April 4th, expect some clouds in the morning, moving over to light rain in the afternoon and continuing into the night. A high of 52, a low of 50, and a wind chill reaching down to 41 degrees. On Sunday, expect heavy rain in the morning, continued by snow showers in the afternoon and evening, rain totals reaching 1.5 inches to 1 inch, and snow totals reaching up to 1/2 inch at night. A high of 50, a low of 27, and at night the wind chills will reach down into the negative temperatures. Expect winter-like conditions to continue on to next week on Monday and Tuesday, as the highs will only be in the middle 20s, reaching down to the negative temperatures in the wind chills. So, once again, it's going to be muddy out there, but be safe, be prepared, and don't become tomorrow's rescue story. Take it on, fellas. Thank you for that amazing weather forecast. Whoever did that, it's probably Stash. He is lonely in that category. All right, so let's get out to the last set of sponsors, and then we'll get on to Mike talking about ham radios. Exciting. So, is it time for some new gear for hiking in the Catskills? Say no more. Camp Catskill in Tannersville has all your hiking needs. Footwear, socks, moisture-wicking shirts, freeze-dried meals, Catskill merchandise, and more. They have all the essentials for your hiking needs in Catskills. Located in Tannersville, and you can shop online. Check out Camp Catskill. Also, if you want free stickers, stop at Camp Catskill in Tannersville. Also, check out Another Summit, a nonprofit program that leads outdoor adventure activities for veterans and first responders for free. Outdoor adventures like walking, hiking, paddling, and even backpacking. We welcome guardians of all ages and ability levels, including those with accessibility needs. Our adventures are located throughout New York and the Northeast, and we organize transit accessible adventures through the Hudson Valley and New York City area. Apply today on anothersummit.org. All right, so let's get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
So tonight, Mike Volpe from Random Hiker in the Catskills, who has a very good experience with ham radios, is joining us to talk about his experience of hiking up to the Catskill summits, using his ham radios up there. Super cool stuff that I've seen on, once again, Facebook. Facebook connects us together with this kind of things, which is amazing. And Mike, I saw Mike's stuff and I had to get him on the show. It sounds pretty cool. So Mike, welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Did I say that right? Your last name again?
Yeah.
Volpe. Ah.
Good job. Most people don't say it right.
Well, I asked you.
Yeah.
I had to, Ted, I asked him beforehand. I was just like, all right, I got to ask him because I'm getting sick and tired of being wrong on all this stuff. So I had to ask. So good. Welcome to the show, Mike. How you doing today? How's everything going? Where are you located right now?
Everything's great. Right now I live in Pompton Lakes, which is in northern New Jersey, pretty close to the border of New York, not too far from Greenwood Lake, Warwick area.
Okay. All right. That sounds pretty cool. All right. So, Mike, how about you give the listeners a little background about yourself? Like maybe start you when you were younger, where you grew up, and then progress into kind of like how you got into hiking and such.
So I grew up down on the Jersey Shore, Brick, New Jersey. Not too many, it's pretty flat there, so not a whole lot of hiking going on there. I joined the Marine Corps in 1988, and I served in the Gulf War as an infantry Marine. So I got a nice crash course on hiking in the Marine Corps. Not always the kind of hiking you enjoy, but I did enjoy it. So I was in the Marine Corps until 1992, and then I got out and I went to school at the Culinary Institute of America in Poughkeepsie. And while I was going to school there, it's actually in Hyde Park. I lived in New Paltz. So I kind of got my first taste of the Catskills, or not the Catskills, but the Hudson Valley. And, we were hiking and mountain biking up that way. and I worked as a chef for about 30 years. And then during COVID, like a lot of other people, I got laid off, and I decided to kind of take a retirement, and started really like hiking a lot. And I got my ham radio license during the lockdown, and I've been doing a lot of ham radio since. And now I do a lot of volunteer work with the Marine Corps League, which is a veterans service organization, kind of like the VFW. I'm on my CERT team in the Community Emergency Response Team, where I do some ham radio stuff there. And I'm on the New Jersey Search and Rescue.
Oh, nice. Oh, with our fellow friends, Scott and Joe.
Yeah, that was a great podcast they had. They're both great guys and awesome team members. So, yeah, I'm on the team with those guys.
So, being with your involvement with the Marine Corps and hiking with that stuff, minimum pack weight that you had to carry when you were doing those miles and stuff like that in the desert, put me to shame with what I carry for search and rescue stuff.
Well,
correct?
We our fitness test is with a 35-pound pack. In the Marine Corps, I mean, it could be easily double that.
Wow.
Well, with the combat load, with your weapon and ammo, it can get pretty heavy.
Yeah. How long were you stationed out there?
I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years.
Okay. All right. And then did you start your like communications like expertise out there? Like, was that your interest that you started to get into?
No, I never, I was always kind of like interested in ham radio, but, I got out of the Marine Corps and I jumped right into the kitchen after the CIA. And I didn't really have much time to do anything until like 2021. And then I always wanted to get a license, and then I studied and I got my license, and now I got my call sign, Kilo Delta 2 Yankee Echo Whiskey.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So now with this, like you started like introducing into hiking, you started out in the Hudson Valley. What moved you up to the Catskills? Did you hear about like the 3500 Club, or stuff like that? Well, how did you start pursuing the Catskills? And did you, let's start with that question first, and then I got one.
Yeah, so there's a program in ham radio. It's called Summits on the Air. And basically what it is there's like a list of summits all over the world, and you hike up to the summit. You set your radio up, and you have to make like 4 contacts. And then once you make those 4 contacts with people, you've activated the summit. You keep a log on a app program, and then you upload it to the Summits on the Air website, and you kind of get points and awards and stuff like that. So I started doing that, and then I realized that and I heard about the 3500 Club, and then I realized that almost half of the 3500 summits are Summits on the Air summits. So I was like, oh, it's maybe something I want to do. And then I saw a buddy on Facebook that I went to college with posted a video of him completing his 3500. So I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, man, I'm doing this ham radio stuff, and I want to do the 3500. And my buddy Mike Kellner, who lives in Pine Bush, him and I went out and hiked a lot and did a lot of summits together. And I completed my 3500 last year. And now I'm working on the winters.
Nice. Congratulations. That's fantastic. So now, like, with the Summits on the Air, that got you introduced to the Catskills and stuff like that. So now you're going up there. Are you strictly going up there for for just the actual ham radio, or are you actually going up there because you enjoyed hiking in the summits? And are you carrying that?
I love hiking. It's one of my passions. My wife's a big hiker as well. So, we go up whenever we can. There's some decent hiking around here too. Ramapo and, Harriman's not too far from here. So, I I'll hike all day long, anytime. And if I can do the radio on top of that, it's a bonus.
Nice. Nice.
Right, Mike. I have some technical questions for you, but the first thing I want to know, summits on the air, and this, I'm really asking this for those listeners of ours who are they're driven by hiking lists and hiking patches. So with respect to summits on the air, did you get a patch?
True.
No, you don't get a patch, but it's kind of like you're collecting summits.
Mm-hmm. You don't have like a patch or a sticker, a decal to put on your ham radio gear. Then what's the point of doing it? You don't have to answer that question, but yeah,
like bragging rights, or you're trying to see how many summits you can activate, and there's a point system, so you're trying to get up to so many points. And when you reach up 1,000 points, you get the golden award, which is called the soda goat. So you're
the soda. Well, I would have figured that out. I mean, 1,000-point soda goat. But where do you display these things that you want to brag about? Where do you have a trophy wall, a hat that you get? Where's the?
I mean, there's a like a web page on the Summits on the Air Soda website, and people can go on and look and see all your different badges and awards that you get. But yeah, that's really about it. I mean, it's not like the 3,500 club where you're aspiring to get that patch.
I gotcha. And you're saying SOTA, SOTA, Summits on the Air. Okay, yes. I didn't get that the first time. All right, so tell us, what is a ham radio?
So a ham radio, it's a ham radio is like a licensed radio communication service that's regulated by the FCC, and it allows for like global communications. So you can talk on a radio with an antenna pretty much anywhere in the world.
And when you say that, you can talk almost anywhere in the world. I understand that there's different types of ham radios, a portable unit, a base station unit, a mobile unit. Are you familiar with those different types of units?
Yeah. So like a base station unit is like here. I have there's like a big radio. It's in your house. It's connected usually to like a big antenna outside, maybe, or on a big pole, something like that. And it's typically your base station may have more power, like 100 watts, or some people have amplifiers that could go 1,500 watts. Wow. And then portable radio is usually smaller. My radio weighs about 2.4 pounds, and you have a small like a 12 amp hour battery and a little antenna wire, basically, that you just throw up in a tree. And then a portable station is usually in a vehicle, so a car or a boat or an airplane. Those are the people that designate themselves portable.
Okay. So you indicated that a base station, a home unit, has a big antenna. I think you either cut out or you didn't say, how big is a big antenna for the home unit?
So my antenna that I have in the backyard is up about 50 feet in the air.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's about 65 feet long.
And what do the neighbors say about that?
Oh, they love it.
They really? Okay.
Yeah, they love it.
That's
nice.
Cool. So you have some cool neighbors. And so the reach of your base unit, I'm assuming, is global.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What about the portable unit that you took up to the mountaintops in the Catskills, the 2.4 pound unit? How far do you reach with that? Is it also global, or you have to use repeaters or something else?
No, for Summits on the Air, you're not allowed to use repeaters.
Okay.
But depending on, the conditions, and there's a lot of variables, right? There's like the weather, there's solar weather, there's, the time of the year. But yeah, I could reach, pretty much all over the world. I mean, being on the East Coast, I get a lot of European stations and South American stations, and it can reach California. But every once in a while, you'll get some crazy one, from Jakarta or whatever. It's
Okay.
just.
So, Tad, hold on. What about what is a repeater? I know, Tad, you're familiar with this because you were on a boat and stuff like that, but I'm not a repeater. Like, what does a repeater do as in terms of like the ham radio stuff? Sorry, Tad. Sorry to interrupt.
So a repeater is like basically like a big tower, and they put them up, somewhere high, and the signal from the radio goes into the repeater, and then the repeater broadcasts that station out. So you're able to get more distance out of it.
So they forbid that up on the summits on the air.
But summits on the air, you're not allowed to use repeaters.
Oh, wow.
You just have to use your antenna and, whatever contacts you make.
It's crazy.
And you have some way of either toggling on or off or dialing in or out with your portable unit, whether the signal goes to a repeater or doesn't go to a repeater.
Well, you know what frequencies the repeaters are on.
Okay.
And you don't go on those frequencies.
So you described the portable unit as 2.4 pounds. It's got this wire antenna you throw up in a tree. How many watts is it? You said the home unit can go up to 1,500. How much is the portable?
It's 10 watts.
Okay.
So Tad, or Mike, can you explain? Like, of course, wattage means more like frequency, more stretch, more reach, like that.
More
Is that
power.
correct?
It's more
power.
power.
Okay.
Is that fair to say? It's like a light bulb, isn't it, Mike? You got a 5-watt light bulb, like Stosh, 5-watt light bulb, and then you got somebody like me, 2,500 watts.
Jesus Christ. That was savage.
You go ahead and agree, Mike. Stosh will edit this out anyway. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So there goes Stosh. He just stormed out of the outhouse
mine
studio.
Is, 10 watts. It's a lot of guys like to use low power because it's a little more of a challenge. Some of the portable radios they go up to about 100 watts.
Okay. Wow. So let me ask you, while we're talking about you being on the Catskill summits, you've got your portable unit broadcasting at 10 watts. You threw the wire up in a tree. What's the furthest station away from where you were that you remember reaching when you were on a Catskill summit? Was it like Phoenicia? Was it Ellenville? Or was it Hong Kong? Tell us how far you got.
I've reached stations in Brazil.
Wow.
Down in all over Europe. I hit Hawaii one time. So
wow.
It could be anything. And
so you get up there on top of the summit, you carry this gear up there, you throw the wire up in the tree. Do you already have like a list of people or stations you're going to try to contact and their frequency, or are you just up there winging it?
No, so how it works is there's an app, like everything else. There's an app that you go on. Hopefully you have cell phone service. You go on the app, you say, hey, I'm at this summit. I'm on this frequency, and this is my call sign. And then you put it out there, and then everybody sees it.
Okay. So I have to chuckle, but I'm not going to. Are you telling me that your ham radio doesn't work without an app and a cell connection? Is that what we just heard? Or don't smile. You got to answer the question.
Not true. No.
Okay.
It will still work. It's just easier with the app.
Gotcha.
You can schedule it ahead of time on the site and say, hey, I'm going to be up on Slide Mountain at 12 o'clock and I'm going to be on this band, look for me. Or if you don't have cell phone service, you can just get on a frequency and start calling, and somebody hears you, they'll get your information and then they'll spot you.
And so do you have like a dialogue with the person on the other end, or is it just like you ping them and move on? What's the contact?
Yeah, so basically, you're just trying to get as many contacts as fast as you can. So you're just getting their call sign. You're
Okay.
getting like a signal report, which they're telling you how strong your signal is, and you're telling them, their signal report and what summit you're on. And then it's like, okay, thank you, goodbye, and then you start calling for the next one. Some
Interesting.
home radio operators, they call it rag chew, where they go on the radio and they just have conversations and they bullshit and talk about whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
With this expensive gear.
What's that?
Well, they do all that with this expensive gear.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Mike, you talked about before that sometimes, the lower wattage makes it challenging. Like, how does it make it challenging? Like, do you have to like specifically put your antenna in certain locations to get like a better reach, or is it where you're standing, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, the more power you have, the stronger your signal is.
Uh-huh.
So if the lower the power, you have to make sure that your antenna is working properly. It's dialed in. It works well with your radio. Sometimes what direction you set the antenna up, it makes a difference. So it's a lot of different things like that.
And like your antenna and stuff, like, do you ever have like backup power? Does it use like a battery power for it, or does it relay the message off of your of your ham radio?
So the battery, wait, I don't know.
Like, is the antenna like have a power to it, or no, or just antenna?
No. So the radio has a battery, and then the antenna just plugs with a piece of coax into the radio.
Oh, okay. So it's a full like on thing that's all connected. Okay, I didn't know if it was like separate, or if you can like put it, like in West Kelly, you only have that spot where you're looking over to the east on the viewpoint. But if you go to the summit, you might get a little bit further reach because it's higher up or something.
Yeah, sometimes it's tricky, man. Some of those summits, like the higher you can get your antenna, usually the better it works. But on some of those summits, I have to it's like 4 feet off the ground, and I just string it down the trail and then hook it to the radio, and I'll just sit there, But you're already up 3,500 feet, so.
So now, when you're up there doing your thing, do people come along and give you that weird look of like, what's this guy doing up here? Is he's like search and rescue, stuff like that?
Yeah. Sometimes, I'll tell people, it's my my Sasquatch detector, or I'm trying to look for aliens or something like that. But most of the time, people are like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they're interested, and I talk to them about it. And I always try to stay out of the way. Like, I don't block the trail, or I don't, block a viewpoint. I try to go off to the side, so I'm really not bothering anybody. But I'm always happy to talk to people and to tell them what's up.
Yeah. Do you ever like get into a conversation with other like the other hikers are up there watching you doing your stuff? Like now, like has there people been like you're in a middle of a conversation, all of a sudden hikers come up and they can hear your full on conversation? Are you like are they like just like packing around you and be like, oh my God, listen to this guy, he's talking to some guy in Brazil?
Yeah, I mean, usually they're pretty courteous of it. And if it's a busy day and there's a lot of people, I can put headphones on so that they can't hear what's going on, because I try to be conscious of not ruining people's hikes, because not everybody wants to hear some weird guy talking on the radio in the middle of it.
I don't know. I love to hear somebody like talking with somebody over in Europe rather than blaring their stuff over Bluetooth. That would be actually phenomenal.
Most people are interested. Most people think it's cool.
So I'm guessing the fire towers are a little bit better than other places that as you can get up above tree line fire towers, like that.
Yeah. The fire towers are cool. Like, Hunter Mountain, that's a 10-point summit. And, I went all the way up the fire tower, and I threw the antenna down, and then we strung it down, and there's that little like cabin up there, and then we just sat by the cabin and we set the radio up there. So the antenna was like pretty high, which was really nice.
So
I
that
think
means
I think I was there that day, and Mike, I remember you now. You hit me in the head.
Yeah.
My lawyers, Dewey Hikemore and Howe, are going to get out after you. All right, I'm just throwing that out there. Back to you, Stosh.
so that means you have to have a cable that long enough to reach from the top of the fire tower all the way down to the cabin.
Yeah, the antenna's pretty long.
So how much does that weigh? You have your ham radio that weighs 2.5 pounds. Now you have to have the.
No, it's basically just a real thin wire and like a plastic winder, and it's got like a piece of metal on it.
Wow.
It weighs only a couple ounces.
This sounds pretty primitive. Like is the wire just bare metal, or does it have a jacket on it, or something else?
It's a coated wire.
Okay.
Wow. So now this is so now you're getting into like, what would this been like 20 years ago? Like, do you think it would have been like heavy duty stuff that you had to carry up, or are you still using stuff basically that has been around for like 20 years?
I think it's probably pretty much the same. I think some of the stuff has gotten smaller and lighter. Definitely the radios are definitely probably a little bit lighter than they used to be, but I don't think it's changed a whole lot.
Oh, interesting.
So Mike, I got a couple interesting questions, but before I get there, let's say Rachel Jean, the Gypsy Queen, who's one of our followers, promoters, and kind of just a really cool person, wanted to get her husband, Josh, a portable ham radio for his birthday, right? Because he's like a singer in a band out of the city, and maybe he wanted to go up to Hunter Mountain and sing. What kind of money is that going to set him or her back to buy Josh a decent portable setup? The wire antenna, the unit itself, the microphone, the whole kit and caboodle. What do you think Rachel Jean's got to spend on that?
Well, that's the fun part, because
I get it. This is where Mike says there's the number that you pay, and then there's the number you tell your spouse. Okay. So let's hear the number you pay that shows up on the credit card, Mike.
There's an endless amount of toys that you can buy.
So let's just go with decent, not like throwaway stuff that you're going to grow out of after a year or two, but stuff that you can use and have fun over the course of 5 or 10 years. What do you say?
For maybe I want to say $200 or $300, you can get a really decent radio.
Wow.
Not bad.
I thought you were going to say 2,000 or 3,000 or maybe more. Didn't you, Stosh? It's like, whoa.
My radio costs about $1,500.
Okay. Okay. Oh, now your wife's coming in the room. I see her. She's looking a little upset.
I've been playing in the basement.
Yeah. So, and the other quickie I have is, can you just briefly tell us what the difference between a ham radio is and the CB or Citizens Band radio that I think more people are familiar with? And then the GMRS, General Mobile Radio Service, if you know what that is. Can you give people the flyover on those two compared to a ham?
Yeah, so, like we said, the ham radio is like global communications. Can be relatively high power. A CB is usually a lower power, and it's limited to just a few frequencies. They have I think like maybe 20 frequencies that are CB only, and then and that's pretty short range. You're not
a few miles.
Yeah, maybe you may hit, depending on the conditions, somebody in Pennsylvania or whatever, but it's relatively short distance, low power, and a few frequencies or channels that you can use. And then GMRS, and you don't need a license for CB. GMRS, you need a license, but you don't have to take a test for the license. You just go on, you buy it, and then you have your license. And then, and that's pretty much like a local short range radio. And it's also, there's only several frequencies that you can use with that.
Okay.
So it's
And-
more
and-
like local line of sight. GMRS you would use if you were, out camping with your family and your husband went out hunting or something, and you get that radio like that.
Gotcha. So if you're really going to be out in the boonies, a remote area with a lot of variation in the terrain, poor line of sight, the portable ham radio sounds like the device to use, or like an in-reach communicator. All right, let's move on.
That's Tad. That like, could that be like a replacement of the Garmin, like InReach and stuff like that? Could you use that as kind of like an emergency like thing? Would a ranger pick that up, or just somebody signaling like, "Hey, I'm in desperate need of help. Can somebody signal a ranger in somewhere?" Could that be work?
Absolutely.
Wow.
All you got to do is just dial around, and you're going to hear somebody.
So no subscription like Garmin and stuff like that. And
No,
InReach.
no. I mean, to transmit on a ham radio, you need a license, which you have to take a test for. But there's a rule that in an emergency, anybody can transmit on a ham band.
Wow.
So, and if you didn't have a license, you could transmit if it was an emergency.
And so how hard is it to get that license? You have to test, take a test. So how much studying is involved? You have to go take classes, like 12 class hours, 50, or you just read a manual online or subscribe to some service, take a test.
So it's a 20 question test. Well, there's 3 levels of the license. There's the technician, which is the lowest level, general, and then amateur extra. So the technician and the general is a 20 question test, and the amateur extra is a 50 question test. And I mean, there's a lot of technical stuff. A lot of it's just the rules and etiquette of how to operate the radio. And I mean, it's not all that hard. I mean, like if an old infantry Marine can pass it, most people could do it.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
All right. Speaking of people in service, have you ever spoken with your ham radio to an astronaut on the International Space Station?
I have not, but I'm a member of the Fairlawn Amateur Radio Club, and they just did an event at a school, like a middle school, where they set it up ahead of time with NASA. And they actually made a contact with the space station, and they allowed the kids to ask questions to the astronauts and stuff. We got a couple guys in the club that have all that equipment. It's a whole different set of toys that you need, to do satellite work.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
And then twice a year we do what's called Field Day, where we set up outside, and we have to use like alternative power. We're not allowed to plug into the grid, and there's different categories, and you get points, and it's kind of like a competition. And one of the categories is satellite contact. So I've been with the guys that were doing that, and it's pretty cool.
Are you looking forward to are you looking to maybe catch some time of where you can talk with them up there? Is it rare? Is it like once in a while they'll be like, hey, or do you have full on conversations with them? Do you know?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I mean, you can find out online like when they're flying overhead and what frequencies they're on, and you can try to call them and just make a contact. Hey, this is KD2YEW. Oh, this is blah, blah, blah from the International Space Station. I hear you. And then, you could put it in your log. But to have a conversation, I think you got to set that up ahead of time, like the guys in my club did.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, we talk about emergency services earlier, and right now, it's funny because just recently, probably 5 hours ago, a section of our area up here in near Oneonta, closed because of flooding. It wiped out a little passage underneath a culvert, wiped out, and that was last wiped out during Hurricane Irene in 11, which was catastrophic to the Catskills. You know, I wasn't a prolific hiker in the Catskills, but I could remember going down there for volunteer and rescue efforts, stuff like that. Now, did they use ham radios during like Hurricane Irene and stuff like that? Were you aware of this and stuff at the time?
Yeah, I think that they did. So there's what they call the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, and it's a volunteer organization that any like a ham radio operator you can join, and they practice doing emergency communications during storms and all that. And I think during what was it, Irene, they have these they call them hurricane nets where they'll they'll set up on a certain frequency and they'll just have somebody on there all the time updating what the weather is, if there's any shelters opening, and they just transmit any kind of information. So that's they do that a lot. It was really big down in North Carolina not that long ago. They had that huge storm and knocked out all the cell towers, and ham radio operators were the only ones like getting information out from there.
So what you're saying is that this is better than satellite communications in terms of emergency and stuff like that. Ham radios, radio communications, of course, is extends a little bit and it helps out.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, it's an older technology, and you're not really dependent on the grid. You're not dependent on cell towers, cell companies. So sometimes the older things tend to work better.
Yeah.
And what you haven't mentioned, Mike, is unlike an InReach or other satellite device, there's no monthly subscription service.
Yes, I mentioned that earlier.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, because there's no like you can take the. I mean, it's 2.5 pounds, so a lot of people will be like, "God damn, that's going to add some significant rate other than my Garmin watch."
Mm-hmm.
But how much is a subscription to Garmin? Like $30 a month, right?
No, I think I pay $12.
12. Okay.
Yeah. But I have the limited package.
I mean, you could have an awesome communication time. Hey, my leg's broken to a guy in Brazil. The guy in Brazil can relay it to the guy in Europe. The guy in Europe can relay it to our forest ranger in the Catskills. And he's like, "Oh, that's freaking cool. Why? What? That's
5 days later, they're coming to get you."
Yeah, they'll just bring the casket out to you. No need for a litter.
Yeah.
Now, Tad, one quick question: like, did you, when you were your sailboating days, like, did you use this kind of stuff, or what were you using at this time out in the open ocean?
I mean, to be candid, when I was offshore, I really didn't know what the communication devices were, all the boats, and what the navigation was, because there was people that were in charge of that.
I figured,
yeah, it was like highly segmented, the divisions of labor. When I was racing on the Great Lakes, we had VHF radios with a antenna mounted somewhere towards the top of the mast, which would generally put the antenna up about 60 to 70 feet, which meant that no matter where you were on the lake, you could generally hit the shore someplace because there's no obstruction. There's no mountain in between you and the shoreline. It's just nothing but water. So
interested. So like, Mike, how successful are you when you're doing this stuff, when you hike up to a summit and you want to relay or a viewpoint? Do you just do summits, or is it viewpoints as well where you can get kind of like an open look at the sky and stuff?
I mean, usually, I'll hike up to the summit, and they have like a specific activation zone that you have to be in to call out and activate the summit. So I usually go there, but I'm not just there to do the radio. I'm there to hike, and I'm always looking for new trails and new viewpoints, and I like the whole experience.
Like your radio communications, have you always connected to someone when you're up there?
Oh yeah, always.
Oh, nice.
I've never had a failed activation. Maybe once or twice I had an equipment failure, but I always bring some backup stuff, and I always make it happen somehow.
So now we're going to see, hopefully, like everybody's going to be bringing ham radios always to the top and stuff like that. We're going to have 18 antennas up the top of the Hunter Mountain. And Mike's going to be up there, like communicating with everybody and just be like, get off the summit, man. This is my summit. Just, that's great. With the, you're up in the Catskills communicating and everything. Do you need, when you're up there, do you need the absolute perfect conditions, or can you communicate? Are you successful with any conditions whatsoever?
When the conditions are bad, sometimes they're bad on one band, but not on another band. So the bands are kind of like channels, right? They have like, the 40-meter band is like 7 megahertz, and the 20-meter band is 14 megahertz. So those are like channels. So if the conditions are bad on the 20-meter band, you switch to the 40-meter band, and sometimes it's better. So there's a lot of playing around you got to do to try to make it work. And you're also able, before you head out, you're able to check the conditions on the website, to see, sometimes solar storms affect the conditions or the weather. And you can go on and you can look and see like, oh, okay, today the 40-meter band is better than 10-meter band, so I'll go up and, with the plan and to activate on that band. Yeah.
Wow. Impressive. That's pretty neat.
So now that you've sparked Stasha's interest in ham radio communication, Mike, what are your suggestions or recommendations to someone like Stash, how he would go about pursuing an interest in ham radios and getting his license?
So to get your license, there's a website, the American Radio Relay League. They're like the main organization that deals with ham radio. Mm-hmm. So you could go on there and you can find out all the information. My recommendation is to find a local ham radio club. They're all over the place. You could just Google, in your area, ham radio club near me or whatever, and get into a club, and they'll find you like a mentor that can talk you through it. What I did, it was during COVID, so I went on the website Ham Radio Prep, and it was a paid course that you take, and it was really good. They had a lot of practice tests and little games you could play to help you remember, and little videos and stuff. So that's what I did. And then I scheduled the test at the Ham Radio Club, and I went there in person and took the test.
Wow.
What would you say your investment was in terms of time? 10 hours, 20 hours, 100 hours to go from knowing very little to nothing to passing the test?
It's going to take a little bit of time because it's not the easiest stuff to remember, at least for me.
Yeah.
But I would say if you did an hour or two a day for maybe 2 weeks, you could do it. Sometimes they have these classes where you go for 2 days, and they just crash you into it, and then you take the test at the end, and you're good.
So the lead up to my final question, it's not actually my final question, but we'll get to that. Why is it that there's this training, knowledge, and exam required for a ham radio, but not for other radios like the CB radio?
I think because there's so many different frequencies that you can talk to, and you're reaching in such a distance, whereas like CB radio or GMRS, GMRS, you need a license, but you just buy it, but you're not really going far. And with a ham radio, you can sometimes get onto frequencies of like police stations and EMS squads and stuff, you can hear it, and they want to make sure that the people that have that equipment that can do that know how to use it. And
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's
I
a good
guess they don't
point.
want you starting World War III with Russia or something like that.
Yeah, right. You want
So
to know
here-
you're professional about it instead of being just like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah. All right, Mike. So here's the final question. And like I said, it's really not my final question, but all week long, Stosh was texting me, messaging me, calling me because he wanted to know if we could ask you this. Well, actually, he wanted to ask you this. And I said, go ahead and ask him, but he's too bashful to ask you.
But you're not.
I'm not going because I'm going to ask the questions because I know he wants to know and our listeners are going to want to know if you are willing to broadcast an entire episode of Inside the Line around the entire world for everyone in the world to hear. Will you do it?
I would do it, except that
Just leave it there. Just leave it there. We're going global. Mike is bringing us to, it's like we're like the voice of the Catskills now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, what were you going to say? You can finish up on that, Mike. What?
No, I mean, you're not allowed to use the ham radio for commercial purposes.
We're not a commercial enterprise.
That's actually true.
So let's do it.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
It's a hobby.
All right. I'm bringing my
We're gonna do it up at
150 watts. Yeah. I bet you Jeff Jotz has got like 1,000-watt transformer. So, yeah, we're going to be the voice of the Catskills coming to some lagoon in a third world country.
Right? Like some people over in like Pakistan are going to be like, who the hell are these guys? Like, get the hell off of my frequency.
Yeah.
So now with your all other stuff, like the history of ham radios, do you think like this, like ham radios started the like social network? Was like one of the first social networks that you've ever heard of and in your kind of history of learning about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, they're before cell phones and the internet and all that. I mean, how else would you talk to somebody in another country?
And now look at it. But then you're still using this as kind of like something that you're just hiking to a summit of the Catskill High Peaks and you can randomly pick somebody or somebody can pick you up, be like, hey, what do you say when you're on the summit? You're like, I'm on the summit of Hunter Mountain. Can anybody hear me? What's your usual communications like chat that you started off with?
Yeah. So, when you get on, you say, you're calling CQ, which means like, hey, I'm calling for any station. This is Kilo Delta 2, Yankee Echo Whiskey. I'm on Slide Mountain, which is the designators, like, Whiskey 2, Golf Charlie 001. Every summit has a different number. And, I'm calling any station, and then people will call you and say, oh, this is, KD2YDN. Oh, okay. Hey, I hear you loud and clear. Thanks for the contact. Goodbye. And that's it.
That's it. Well, they can say like, hey, I'm I'm sitting out taking a bath or something like that. Bath, that's weird. That's a little weird with a ham radio. Jesus, where'd I come up with that?
Sometimes, sometimes people, guys from the club or whatever will call and, we'll have like a short conversation, but, usually you're trying to just get up, activate, get your points, pack your stuff up, and then, hike down before you're late picking your kid up for school.
So with your radio, quick question, like how long does that last that you can keep it on and you can keep the communication going? So in case, once again, this kind of replaces anybody Garmin if they're willing to carry 2.5 pounds, because I highly doubt anybody that listens to this podcast is willing to add 2.5 pounds to their weight limit.
The batteries, they'll last, because I'm using 10 watts. So it's not a lot of power, so it lasts longer. So I could transmit for probably well over an hour, 2 hours maybe.
Wow.
But, some people use 100-watt radios and it uses more battery power. So the more power you use, the shorter amount of time you're going to be able to use it.
Interesting. So this is all fascinating stuff, but the most fascinating question is Tad's last question. What is Tad's last question?
Oh, I did that. That was.
I thought you had a whole different last question.
No, that was it. That Mike has now said he's promised everyone that he's going to bring Inside the Line to the world,
to Antarctica.
So like if we go and do like a live broadcast over a cider thing, you can bring your ham radio, and instead of reaching like those like 50, 60 people, we can reach 50 to 60 million
or billion.
I mean, we're only around 8 billion now. So Tad, you're going maybe aliens.
Well, I'm gonna brush up on my Mandarin, and we're gonna talk about hiking around the world. And before you know it, everyone in the world's going to be coming to the Catskills to go hiking. And then the DEC is going to have a real effing problem with all those trails, unmarked trails going everywhere in the Catskills.
Bridges, stuff like that.
And then I'm just going to step away, and I'm going to blame it on, what is it? KD2 Yankee something, what's your call? Echo. Whatever.
Yankee Echo Whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Blame me. I don't care.
He doesn't care. He'll just tell everybody on the ham radio that he's not responsible.
I'm just going to step back and point to Mike. Look, the guy with the antenna, not the guy with the microphone.
Yeah. It's all like fascinating stuff. Once again, you very rarely hear about this or see about this. So on the summits of the Catskills, let alone anywhere, like communication like this has almost, I wouldn't say almost gone extinct. Only the dedicated people like you, Mike, do this kind of stuff. And it's really cool to hear about, that we're keeping this going. And then once again, that you could bring this into an emergency situation. Like Mike, you might be, in the middle of Lone and Rocky. Nobody has cell service. And you are the one that are communicating with somebody else to get an emergency rescue going up there. That would be absolutely phenomenal. And I've written down everything that you've talked about, the Marine Corps League, Summits on the Air, AIRS, and stuff like that is going to be all in the show notes in case anybody wants to pursue this. And also, once again, if you want to go a little bit further with this with the ham radios, I suggest you can get a hold of Mike. What's you're on Facebook as what's it again?
Hardcore Ham.
Hardcore Ham. That's how I found Mike on Facebook, and it was phenomenal. So if you can reach out to Mike to maybe get introduced into this, and
I'd be more than happy to take anybody out, go on a hike, and we can do some radio. It'd be a lot of fun.
I think, Tad, that might be a live episode.
Yeah. We should definitely have some guests or listeners, sponsors. Go hang with Mike. You can bring the cider. Mike can bring the radio equipment, and I'll bring a pack full of sarcasm.
Exactly. Tad will pack lightweight. I thought about this, and I was just like, Hunter would be a great place to have a live broadcast. There's space. They have the cabin. They have communications. There's a cell tower right nearby at Hunter North and stuff. So, it'd be a great place. So maybe that might be a destination for a live broadcast on a summit of a high peak, if we can get that, that the DEC is listening. Never mind.
Yeah,
they're going to told us that
they'll try to get an injunction,
and they'll drive up to the top. They won't hike up to the top. They'll drive up to the top. There'll be 8 of them, and they'll have stuff drawn out, and they're going to be like, "You can't do this, guys. Come on." So, Mike, the last question. Before the last question, I have 2 last questions. I saw you drinking something. What were you drinking?
So there's a local brewery called the Seven Tribesmen, and this is their Galia Imperial Lager.
Nice. I will have that in the.
So
get
up there to deliver them.
Yeah. Is it worthwhile? Is it a good drink?
Yeah, it's really nice. It was 87 degrees here today.
Wow.
So I'm downshifting to the lagers instead of the porters and the stouts.
Mhm.
this time of year.
Oh, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Any alcohol makes me hot and over exhausted, like overheated. So I didn't know there was a difference. So that's cool. I saw you drinking that. I was just like, I have to get his info on that. So that's cool. So last question: you're hiking the Catskills. You know this. Post hike brews and bites. What do you suggest?
Most of the time when I go up, I'm kind of in a hurry to get out. So I'll stop at like Stewart's and grab a coffee or whatever. But if I have the time, I'm a big fan of the Woodstock Brewery. So
Nice. Yeah, that's their burgers are pretty good. So
yeah, they do a good job at the food, and yeah, we drop my daughter off at sleepaway camp, and my wife and I usually go up to the Catskills for a couple days, and we like that place because we can bring the dog and sit outside.
your wife likes to hike?
Oh yeah.
Oh, jealous. she'll get back at it. Right? She never listens to podcasts, so
She'll tolerate me doing the radio for a few minutes, but not too long. Sometimes I'm like, come on, let's get the hell out of here. I'm like, oh, conditions are good. I'm making a lot of contacts,
just started.
Got to go to the places with the views in the Catskills. Oh, I forgot there are none.
Oh, Jesus,
Ouch.
no.
That was hurtful.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Rocky.
Yeah.
You have a view.
Yeah, it's when you can find it. No, Mike, I know I just asked last. Do you have any thoughts of going to other places like Adirondacks, Whites to go on the higher summits and to get openness instead of block trees and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I like to go all over the place. So there's the Northeast Summits on the Air Club, and there's a bunch of crazy guys that go all over the place. And we have 2 campouts a year. One is in the Catskills in May. We'll be at North Lake. North South Lake Campground.
Yep.
And then in the fall we do one up in the Adirondacks. But every time I travel anywhere, I always bring my radio and I try to get a hike and a summit in. I was just last week up in New Hampshire, and I hiked up on Mount Washington, and I was doing the radio up there.
Nice.
That was pretty cool.
What was that called again? Northeast?
The Northeast Summits on the Air Club.
Summits. Okay. All right. I will have that in the show notes as well. So, Mike, big thank you for joining us tonight, taking your time out to talk about ham radios and stuff on the summit. I had a fantastic time learning about this. And you know what? Screw Garmin. I'm going with a ham radio.
Nice.
I don't know about you, Tad. Tad, I know you have that hat that's displaying the corporation. Yeah, he's going with Garmin. What about you, Tad? You going to go with a ham radio now?
No, I haven't eaten ham in probably 30 to 40 years, so I'm not going to start using a ham radio. I did look into one of the GMRS recently, but I was somewhat dissuaded by using one of those, not for hiking, but for other purposes. But we'll see. You never know.
Cool.
I am kind of a ham, so maybe I should get a ham radio.
That's true. You are.
My
a ham.
My call sign will be what? Big Ham.
Big ham. Yeah, I can't think of the numbers.
So hamster. Okay.
Oh, there you go. So, Mike, thanks for joining us. I hope you had a good time. And let's get up on the summits in the future and get some communications going on so we can hear some people from other areas.
Anytime.
All right. So have a good night, and we'll talk to you in the future, man.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this. You gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.